Hey everybody, welcome to Pucks and Brews. I am your host Michael Shades Sparacino, alongside, as always, Liam, the Chill Master Godimer. First and foremost, this is Pucks and Brews. Everybody, I don't say this enough, but my drink of choice is water tonight because it's 8:27 p.m. and if I have coffee, not going to be good for anybody. But Liam, you were just on vacation. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Shay. It's been a really nice last couple of days for Liam. But no drink for me tonight. I was surprised that you didn't come out with the cold brew.
Uh,
Shades, I know it's close to 9 p.m., but that's kind of your reputation. I expect you to live up to it. I think everybody who listens to and watches Pucks and Brews expects the same thing. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit disappointed in my party tonight. But with that, yes, Shades, I am coming off a vacation. Went down to St. Augustine with some friends. That was a lot of fun. Empty beach. I mean, what can you complain about that? So. And the Mets won 16-4 today at Truist Park in Atlanta against the Braves, and I was in attendance. So,
yeah, I know
good
you're happy about that.
days for sure. Yeah,
Wait, so were you in New York during the earthquake or no?
I was not. No,
Oh, you lucky son of a bitch.
it was
Literally.
it was something.
Yeah, a little bit. So basically, where I work, things are notorious for falling like over absolutely nothing. And during the literal earthquake, a literal earthquake where the entire store is shaking, not a damn thing falls. So that was more shocking to me than anything than the actual earthquake. But me and my coworker looked at each other as we first started feeling the shaking, and we gave each other the what the fuck is going on look, and then we realized after it stopped, oh crap, was that an earthquake? So that happened.
That's an incredible story. Love that.
Yeah, and then funny enough, I didn't really feel the initial hit. I kind of just saw everything shaking and then put two and two together. The aftershock, which was not as bad and did not last as long, of course, that's the one I felt, but whatever.
Right. It typically is the aftershock, right? That most do feel. But I think that was the first earthquake in New York had to be in over a decade, right?
I would think so. It's
I
been at
think I
least
remember
10
the
years.
last one. I was quite young, so you
I
know,
was asleep during the last one. So
there you go. But
literally, I get a call from my mom after I wake up. Did you feel the earthquake? I'm like, wait, we got an earthquake?
I was taking
So
my afternoon nap, Mom. What are you talking about?
yeah, seriously. That was before, actually, I was probably, I don't even know if I was in college yet, but
Remember in high school when
I
we
was
came
either in high
home?
school or college, but I probably went to bed at like 6 a.m. that day and was just sleeping my ass in.
Missed
So
those days. Missed those days.
yeah, so do I a little bit, but I still end up staying up until like 2 a.m. anyway, because that's just what I do.
But Shades, you know what days I miss? But I'm not going to have to miss much longer. The
What?
Stanley Cup playoffs
We
because
are so close.
we are, I
What are we, a week away?
think, a little bit over a week away. Yes,
Damn. The best time of the year.
it really is. Teams going to battle for Lord Stanley. So
Absolutely. And speaking of teams going to battle, please tell me you saw that Rangers Devils brawl from last week.
I did. There was a Gladiators home game the same night,
Oh,
but I'd be lying if I said the old laptop on the for the intern wasn't on the Rangers game. So peeked over there, definitely got to catch it, and I'm happy that every Ranger on the ice stepped up and fought. And correct me if I'm wrong, but all of our guys won. So
that wasn't even what I was focused on because obviously they show, like, as it was happening live, they could not have botched that more with the camera angles because they had it on just one fight. The
got to go
replay, of course,
wide.
shows the wide angle. So
Yeah,
they screwed up on that one.
got to go
But
wide in real time.
yeah, seriously, I would think that would be common sense, but take it from me who just hosts a podcast and posts it online. But I was literally on the phone and I was reacting to it to my friend who has no idea what's going on. And I'm just literally, I'm on the phone with him. I'm like, because he buys video games for me. And I'm just go, yeah, I'll take that one too. Rangers Devils are in a full-on brawl right now. Oh, I was not expecting this.
That was a fun fight for sure.
Oh yeah.
Glad that we got to see one between the two bitter rivals this year. So
Oh yeah. And that probably topped the one from 2012.
I'd say it did. Yeah. Just because of the lead up, right, with McDermott and Rempe. And finally, before the first puck is even dropped, or right after the first puck is dropped, you have them come into blows. So
Yeah, I
and it
just
just speaks to the animosity of both teams too.
oh
That they
yeah.
have towards one another, which is good to see the rivalry still up and strong. So
Oh yeah. I just love how Jimmy VC and the guy he sparred with, because I did not memorize the matchups in this entire thing, but they were in such a rush to, get the gloves off and start throwing hands that it was actually pretty entertaining because everybody else was seemingly in slow motion.
right, Jimmy VC, the former Devil, so maybe
Yes.
he squared off against a former teammate. Who knows?
Yeah, and little did I know that there is a new rule that was apparently implemented last year or so. That's what one of my friends told me, that if there's more than one fight going on in the ice at the same time, the first two fighters are the only ones that stay in the game.
Okay. Hmm.
So that's why literally 8 people got thrown out 2 seconds into the game.
Crazy. Crazy.
But that was fun for sure.
Yeah, it was.
Don't you just love when, fucking 10 people just start fighting on a hockey rink all at the same time?
You love it. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I did go back and rewind it and watch it in full, and I was just like, okay, now I can actually enjoy this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like low key mad at my friend, but he's also buying things for me, so I couldn't be too mad.
Right.
But I'm just like, I, Tom, hold on a second. And I was like trying to focus as I was on the phone. And he just goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm great. Like shit's going down."
As long as you can go back and watch it afterwards.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
thank God. Thank God. Thank God. The rewind button is a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is. Great invention.
And speaking of beautiful things, we finally, after 20 years or 19, depending on, because you can't really count 04, 05. Alexander Ovechkin's record has finally been broken by Auston Matthews for goal scoring in a single season in the salary cap era. Matthews tonight scored his 67th. Just absolutely incredible what he's done this season.
He is really establishing himself, right, as the top goal scorer of this generation.
Yeah.
I think, Alexander Ovechkin, he is a player in his own category, but I think Auston Matthews is getting as close to Ovi as any other player ever has. And 67 goals in a season, it's outstanding. He's most likely going to hit 70, knock on wood. And that's a great thing for Matthews. That's a great thing for the Maple Leafs, and that's a great thing for the game at the end of the day. And just want to add a little side point to this topic before I let you go on it. Alexander Ovechkin, another 30-goal season. So I remember vividly, we had a conversation on whether Ovi was done or whether he was going to pick it back up and really bring forth the statistics and overall effort that we're used to seeing from him, and another 30-goal year. So talent finds a way, and Ovi did this year. So just want to give him props for that.
Oh yeah. Ovechkin's still going strong. He's like 38 now, right?
Yeah. Remember, he had a really tough start to the year. There were a lot of questions from a lot of people if he was the same guy. And, I'm not saying 30 goals is the same guy who put up 50. But you see flashes, of the top end goal scorer he once was, and, still is in a lot of ways. So
Hey, and now that you brought it up, I do remember us talking about it during one of the episodes. It's like we were saying he's probably hurt
it's
during the
something we
beginning of
had
the
to talk
season.
about at the time
Oh
because
yeah.
it was really quite a drop off from where he had been in years previous. But he picked it up like I expected, you expected, and hopefully he continues to chug on towards Gretzky's goal record. So,
Yeah, actually, I forgot to look up the number that he's currently at. but I'm pretty sure he's within 50 goals at this point, if not 40.
A really solid end to this season, and next year of about 40 goals, he could break it next season.
Oh, yeah. I mean, personally, I would love to see it broken next season. So he currently is at, like you said, 30 goals on the season, 852.
Okay, so 894 is the record, so he'd have to score 46 goals.
43.
I'm sorry, 43.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't do this podcast because we were math majors.
yeah.
We do it because we're hockey fans. But yeah, 852, another 30 goal season, just absolutely incredible stuff from the great eight.
Yeah. And Matthews, like I said, going back to the beginning of the conversation, right? He is putting himself firmly into the conversation alongside Alexander Ovechkin, and a few others from before our time, as the greatest goal scorers ever. So, so props to Matthews as much props as we're giving to Ovi. 67 goals is nothing to shy away from at all. So
Yeah,
amazing accomplishment.
and I remember going into the 2016 draft where that was regarded as a little bit of a weaker draft class. And then here's Auston Matthews, who could
Right.
arguably end up as one of the goal scorers of all time when all is said and done. Knock on wood.
Yeah. 70 goals. I mean, not many players that have come close to that. So, yeah.
I would love to see it.
Me too. Me too.
Speaking of things you love to see, the Eastern Conference playoff race so far has been so all over the place, so entertaining. The last time we recorded, you and I were both firmly in belief that the Flyers were going to finish in the third spot in the Metro and the Capitals were going to get the second wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. And since then, the Flyers have fallen off a cliff and they are on the outside looking in because who would have thought the Islanders, here with a late season resurgence, would thrust themselves into the third spot in the Metro, currently with 87 points? Capitals, I mean, they're making our prediction look good so far. They got 85 and they're in the second wild card spot. And behind them, with 84, 84, and 83 points respectively, the Penguins, the Red Wings, and like we just mentioned, the Flyers, who fell off a cliff.
Right. The Flyers drop off, right, had come a little bit later than everybody had perhaps anticipated. We knew that they were a team that was on the rise, but not necessarily slated for a third place finish in the Metro. I think this was the Islanders' spot to lose all the way. Whether they were fighting Washington, whether they were fighting Philadelphia, and they've taken the ball and they've run with it. It was a big win against the Rangers, a little bit of a cheap one, probably a penalty that should have been called. That wasn't. Trocheck getting cross-checked in the back. Sabanajad, of course, right, takes the hit up high from Pellick in the middle of the game. So a lot of things we can talk about that. I'm sure we'll get to it later in the episode, but the Islanders, nonetheless, they get a much, much needed 2 points at home. But with that said, it's a dogfight in that wild card right now. Washington with 85 points, then you look below them. Pittsburgh and Detroit with 84 each. Philadelphia falling off a cliff, like you said, Shades, but they're still hanging around. I mean, a regulation victory would, jump them over those two aforementioned teams. And, Devils, Sabres in Ottawa, Montreal out of it. But yeah, with those three teams right now, four teams, Washington, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Philadelphia, it's really interesting in the wild card.
Oh yeah, and I've just loved seeing the constant flip-flop back and forth with all four teams. Okay, well, all five teams, just literally daily. Because one day it'll be, or it was at one point, Flyers, Capitals. Then out of nowhere, one day the Penguins were in the third wild card spot, and the Red Wings were in the no, third division spot, and the Red Wings were in the second wild card spot. And it's just been like pretty much almost every single combination you could think of.
Yep. And the Penguins have been playing some really good hockey. You got to give them credit. They took on a very, very good Tampa Bay Lightning team at home. And you get a regulation victory against the team that's occupying wild card spot number one right now. Pittsburgh and Detroit are facing off right now in what is perhaps the biggest regular season game for each of those teams up to this point in game 79. It's 4-2 Pittsburgh with
And
5.5 minutes to go in the second. So they
and the
continue
Sabres are beating the
well.
Capitals 2-1.
Sabres are beating the Capitals. So yeah, I think if I were to make a prediction on this episode, I'd probably say Pittsburgh. Um, Sidney Crosby, he is willing his team right back into the race. But Detroit's right there too. But for me, I think this comes down to whoever wins this head-to-head matchup tonight, and it's 4-2 Pittsburgh with 5.5 minutes to go, and they're playing in Pennsylvania. So that's where my head's at.
Yeah, Red Wings currently, well, I mean, the power play just expired, but there's little under 4 minutes to go in the second period in that game as we speak. And yeah, you're right. Pitt Crosby literally did put the team on his back as soon as the Penguins traded Gensel. And I mean, here we are. The Islanders look like they're going to run away with the third spot in the Metro, but you never know because
Pittsburgh keeps playing like this, Shades.
they might be the third spot.
They might get the third spot, and it could be Gensel against Crosby in the first round.
Just, I mean, just for the record,
Cinema.
my prediction, just for the record, even whoever comes in the third wild card spot, the third division spot, Jesus, Mike, is losing that series. That's just my ahead of the playoffs prediction, which we'll get back to next week with the full on ones. But
Yes, we
oh yeah,
will. But I'll end this talk with this. It's a dogfight. It's really close, too close to call right now. But don't be surprised if Pittsburgh sneaks into that third spot in the Metro.
yeah, no,
Amazing. They could. Because they're hot right now. They're hot. And the Islanders, I don't know if we buy them. I don't know if I buy them. And they've got another head-to-head meeting with our Rangers at Madison Square Garden before the season ends. So I'm not sure who Pittsburgh has as we move along here, but um, Pittsburgh has a game against the Bruins at home. And again, that's important to mention, right? Because the Penguins have played so well on home ice. They play the Predators at home. That's a big game for Nashville. And then a road game against the Islanders to finish the season,
that's not an easy schedule.
which is not an easy schedule, but very how interesting that is, right? Philadelphia occupies the third spot in the Metro pretty much the entire season, and it very well could come down to a game between the Penguins and the Islanders on April the 17th to close out the regular season. That's awesome.
Capitals don't exactly have an easy schedule either. They're losing to Buffalo right now, and then Saturday they play Tampa, Monday they play Boston, and then they end the season in Philly on Tuesday. So, I mean, tonight could be the night that the team falls off the rails.
Could be, could be.
And since we're doing that, the Detroit Red Wings, their end of the season schedule after Pittsburgh tonight is Toronto on Saturday and then a back-to-back home and home against Montreal Monday and Tuesday. So with the way the Maple Leafs have been playing, and Montreal's been at the bottom of the league for or close to the bottom of the league for a good portion of the season now. Definitely not going to count them out. And I hope Liam's okay because he just had to mute himself and put.
I am okay. I couldn't agree with you more, Shades.
Okay.
Just had to take the camera off, but I appreciate you staying with me here. But no, right on, man. I'm totally with you with this conversation of the Eastern Conference wild card, and we'll see who comes out of the pack. But without knowing the results of tonight's game, it's awfully tough. And props to Philadelphia too. You mentioned that they had fallen off a cliff a little bit. They're beating the Rangers 2-1 right now.
They
So
are.
and
And I forgot to screenshot or bookmark the tweet I saw, but there was a tweet that put a bunch of stats up during the Flyers' recent 8-game losing streak where they were between the forwards and the defensemen, they were putting up good stats. League-wide worst goaltending during that 8-game span. And that is why they are in the position that they're in.
that's something that they can't control, you know,
Nope.
with Carter Hart and his situation. So, but again, they're overachieving this year.
Yeah.
So I think, John Tortorella helps coach them and lead them into the postseason, but anything that happens after that is really gravy. And I think when you are a team, especially in the postseason in the game of hockey with not much to lose, I think that's awfully dangerous. So I'd watch out for Philadelphia. and goaltending can get hot, even though goaltending isn't good right now necessarily. That doesn't mean come the middle of April it can't turn on. So, a lot of moving
Yep.
parts, a lot of moving parts.
Yep, 100%. So to end this portion, who is your division spot team? Who is your wild card team?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think Pittsburgh's really coming on. I think they're going to take that third spot in the division. And as far as my wild card team, and it's really tough. I mean, to say that the Islanders will not make it would be a bold statement to make. So
And
I'm
it's
not going to make
3-1
that statement.
Flyers, of course.
3-1 Flyers. Um, that doesn't mean I'm going to pick Philadelphia just because they scored there. Perhaps out of spite, I'll just pick the Islanders. So yes, the Islanders. Be Tampa Bay and the Islanders in the wild card spot, and Pittsburgh, in Metro spot number 3. So
And my prediction is going to be the exact opposite of you. I am going to go Islanders in the division spot and Penguins in the wild card spot.
fair enough.
Let's see how wrong we are by next week.
It's incredible that the Washington Capitals
We're
kind of
still in this.
are still in this.
Yeah.
So
Crazy. Crazy.
crazy indeed. Crazy indeed.
Speaking of crazy, the news I forget whether it broke earlier today or yesterday, but the Arizona Coyotes situation is an absolute mess. Pierre LeBrun said it. There's a lot of moving parts here, a lot of layers involved, a lot of lawyers involved, and we could, even though nothing's official yet, we could very well see the Coyotes relocated as soon as the beginning of next season.
Yeah, can't touch on too much of this, but
We can only go by what they were tweeting.
yeah, can only go by that. But it is a crazy situation, Shades. And anybody in the comment section or yourself, Shades, while I go through this, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I understand, the NHL would buy the Coyotes from Ali Moreno, the owner of the Arizona Coyotes, and then sell the Coyotes to the Utah Jazz owner. His name is escaping me right now. And relocate the Coyotes to Salt Lake. And in turn, the NHL would gain a profit and would split that profit between all of the NHL owners in order to appease them and make this move happen. And Moreno would have the opportunity, with the money he secured throughout the deal, to reapply for expansion, or not reapply, but apply for expansion in the future if and when the Coyotes are able to secure this deal to lock down land, to build their new arena. So that's how I understand it. Pretty batshit crazy, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
But things are coming to a head, and this reminds me awfully, very much so rather, of when the NHL was moving, from Atlanta over to Winnipeg. And it's kind of rearing its ugly head again. I like to hear that there's a possibility for the NHL to expand back into Arizona, even though they would leave, although I see that as unlikely. But I'm very interested to hear what you think, Shades, of the NHL buying the Coyotes from their owner, selling it to the owner of the Utah Jazz to relocate the team to Salt Lake City, and gaining a profit in which is supposedly, right, to be split between all the NHL owners to appease them. What do you think of that process? Did I a little bit too much for your brain? Need the cold
Yeah,
brew?
yeah. Yeah, no, like you just explained, there's so many layers there
There's
that it literally, and this really kind of did come out of nowhere, like the immediate relocation talk. Although I think if you were to ask any sane NHL fan over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, which is the team most likely to relocate, I think 99% of them would have said the Coyotes. So from that aspect, it's not surprising at all. But the sudden abruptness of it sure as hell is.
Yeah, and I think the NHL's, I wouldn't say silence, but I think when a reporter or a news agency comes out with a bombshell as large as that, I think a response is needed. And again, like this is people's lives on the line, right? And there was a huge report that came out today, and this was the big one for me. I believe it was Chris Johnston. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. May have been Frank Saravelli, may have been both. But for the first time, players of the Coyotes have been notified about this. That's that's kind of the big step. And I can tell you one thing for sure, Shades. I may not know everything. One thing I do know, and again, any sane hockey fan can tell you the same thing. The chances of the NHL hosting the Coyotes, or not hosting, but having the Coyotes rather play at Mullet Arena next season are non-existent. It's not going to happen. So one of two things are going to happen. The Coyotes are going to relocate, or I don't even think that they'll stay in Arizona if they figure out their arena deal. It would be too far away.
Yeah,
It's great in essence, but
yeah, so I'm actually going to sort of relate back to a situation that happened last year that is completely unrelated to the NHL and any of this, but you'll see where I'm going with this as I go along here. So last year, it was based like where I went to college, St. Francis College in downtown Brooklyn. The announcement came out of nowhere to most of everybody who worked there, who was going there, attending the school, and previous students and faculty members, that they basically decided to cancel the athletic program overnight. And well, it's not looking good for the school, to be honest. That's just the way I see things. But to tie this back into the Coyotes, if a situation like this is or happens and the decision is made, it's a lot further along in the process than people realize.
yeah. Um,
And that is not good.
yeah, I think this was something that was in the works for a while. I
Well,
think
they've tried to get a new arena deal.
yeah.
The city of Scottsdale, Arizona, just basically keeps rejecting them. They finally moved to the college arena, which they're having trouble selling out apparently. And we could see a real possibility of the franchise folding. That's pure speculation on my part. I don't want to see it happen, but with how fast things have progressed here, you can't rule that out.
And you know what's crazy, the NHL, the powers that be, right, view Salt Lake City, and again, the name is escaping me, but where the Utah Jazz play, they view that arena as a better option than playing at Mullet. And that's an arena that was not built for hockey. To put that in perspective, that would be like the Islanders playing at the Barclays Center. You know,
What a
that
time
that
that was.
that that's what you would be doing, in order to avoid staying in Arizona. So it's a really sticky situation. It's one that the NHL does not want to be in, but I think the NHL, the Arizona Coyotes, have backed themselves into this corner. And I think this is the only viable outcome. Either they fold, like you said, Shades, or much more realistic possibility, they relocate to Salt Lake City, and the Coyotes, unless for some reason they're a part of an expansion in the next couple of years. They're done. So
Yeah, and to go back to what do I think of the whole process of the league buying the team and then going back into Arizona as a possible future expansion, I don't see that happening, period. With the way things have gone, with them trying to get a new arena, with the way attendance has been for them, with where they had to move to literally within the last 2 years with where everything's at in the organization. It's not good. It's not good. It's literally mind-boggling that they let it get to this point, but I can't really say that any of us should be too surprised, especially once they move to the college arena.
well, I think, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I'll say it anyway because it is my opinion. Um, I got to give Gary Bettman props for doing all he could to save the Coyotes. He did all he could. He wanted to, until he was literally backed into a corner that he could not get out of. And that's where he is now. But, credit to him to wanting to save, the Coyotes franchise. But I think, like you mentioned and, alluded to a little bit, Shades, I think for too long, the Coyotes have kind of been an example of what not to be in the NHL. So, and that can't be anymore. So, and Salt Lake City, I mean, hey, that's a market that's primed and ready for an NHL team. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, that would excite me if that does happen. And hey, they would be relocating if they do go to Salt Lake City to, like you said, a hot sports market that already has an arena built that has another team playing in it. That in itself is going to help drastically. And we could very well see a higher cap increase, following the year that they do hypothetically move, because, hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, good. Very
It
well.
definitely won't hurt a cap increase.
They won't. Could be very good for the league
Yeah,
financially. So I think that's a good point to bring up, Shades, for sure.
I do like what you said though. I sort of have to give credit to Bettman for trying to make it work there for so long. But the thing that killed them in the long run, they tried to make it work for so long and it just wasn't working that the decision was probably made a little too late.
Right, right.
But yeah, so I don't totally disagree with you on that one. And I mean, personally, I don't even think that's a hot take. I think that's just, I think that's what happened.
I just think when we have an opportunity to shit on Bettman, people do. And
Usually,
I think this is a case where he doesn't really deserve it. This was an unfortunate situation for every single person involved. And but like you said, Shades, like I think the biggest point out of this entire conversation is what you said. Going back to your college point, right? This was in the works for a long time, and it just came out now. There wasn't just a sudden switch in Gary Bettman's mind or Bill Daly's mind. Oh yeah, let's move to the Coyotes to Salt Lake. No, they had seen the writing on the wall, and they were looking at options. And all things considered, Salt Lake being a hot sports market, like you said, already having an arena that hosts an NBA team, and an owner, right? That is invested and willing, to put a lot of money into this team and a lot of time into this team, I think makes it a no-brainer for the NHL. It's what they have to do. It's what they have to do. And I don't think that the NHL is re-expanding into Arizona either. I don't. I just think that's an option you give Moreno, right? You say, this is something you really want, you're really passionate about, go get the land, reapply, and we'll take it from there. So, and they would waive the expansion fee, by the way, for Moreno. So just
interesting.
a little nugget there. So, you know,
Yeah.
but again, that just goes to show, right? Just how much the NHL doesn't want, but the NHL needs Moreno to sell the team to them. Because if they don't, screwed.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Yeah, I
Then
feel
it
bad for
really
Coyotes
comes.
fans.
Yeah. But that's your silver lining, Coyotes fans, in Arizona. I mean, you'll probably go root for the team in Salt Lake anyway, but if you're based in Arizona, that's your silver lining. Moreno, doesn't have to pay the expansion fee. And again, if it's something he's really passionate about, go win that auction, go get that land, go start the development, and get a team back in Arizona. So
Yeah, but hell, like both of us said, moving to Salt Lake City might be beneficial for both the franchise itself and the league.
right.
So, because yeah, it just hasn't worked. And with all the crap that's gone down there the last couple of years, it's not looking good.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Coyotes fans because I mean, it's literally your team. And going back to like my college thing, it's just like I was a former student athlete there, so that one hit home pretty badly. So, yeah.
Right. And it's good that it's happening at the end of the season, I suppose. And the Coyotes not heading towards the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, the focus of the organization can turn entirely to where they'll be playing next year, once the 82 games come to a close. So,
Yep. I just think whatever decision is made, that it's the right one because we know the NHL.
by the way, the Red Wings have added a goal, so it's 4-3, third period about to start. So that could be a fun one.
Interesting. So when, we're done recording, we're gonna go and watch the third period of the Rangers Flyers game. And of course, the Flyers are going to start the third period on a freaking power play because why would we not take penalties? But yeah, so sorry for, ending the meat of the episode on a little bit of a somber topic, but we had something we had to talk about.
Yeah. I think most NHL fans, most fans that watch Pucks and Brews, I think they'll realize kind of what the situation is. And it's the biggest news out of the NHL this entire week. That's
Yeah.
for sure. So, what the future of the Coyotes is going to be. But it is somber. But there is at least a little bit of hope for you Yotes fans out there.
Yeah. And well, you're right. If they would have made the playoffs this year, that would have added a whole other wrinkle into things.
Right?
Hey, I'm just saying it looked good for the first like 2 weeks of the season before they finally fell off.
Before we let you all go on Pucks and Brews, what do you think, Shades? Salt Lake City Snakes? What's the name going to be for the boys?
That's a good question. I don't
You
know if
need you need to provide our fans an answer before we head off here. Gun to
Salt
your head, what are you naming this team?
Salt Lake City. Well, it can't be the Blues, obviously. I can't say the Potatoes because that's just a no.
Potatoes.
Can't be the Farmers because no, it just doesn't work.
The
Damn.
Salt Lake City Sombreros. No.
I would get behind that in a heartbeat, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Trying
Salt
to find the alliteration.
can't be the Jazz either. God damn it. I got uh let's just copy the NFL, Salt Lake City Commanders. I
Disappointing.
got,
Disappointing, but okay.
that is that's not something you should ask me on the spot. Remember
I'm
what
gonna go
happened with our
salt. I'm
freaking
gonna go
football thing?
salt. I'm gonna copy the NFL too. I'm gonna go Salt Lake City hockey team.
So, all right. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Oh, you hit me on that with the spot. I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
Hey, at least it went better than our freaking football debacle like a month and a half ago, whenever the fuck that was. Yeah.
Football's gonna be
No,
a
but thank God we didn't record that.
yeah.
Anyway, this has been Pucks and Brews. I have been your host, Michael Shades Sparacino, alongside as always, Liam the Shellmaster Godimer. This has been episode 58. And we're a week away from the playoffs. We'll be back next week with our playoff predictions. In the meantime, everybody enjoy the rest of the regular season. Goodbye.
Cheers again. Cheers.
Oh,
Is that
shit.
drink?
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.